All right, guys, welcome back. It's actually the next day from before when I was filming. So I'm just gonna go ahead really quick and show you guys the progress that's been made, and then show you what I've been working on off camera for the last hour and a half. Because it's something that bugged me ever since I first did the car, but I kind of needed it, and it was a lot cleaner than what it was. But now that I see that this car is taking on a new direction, I'm just trying to go as clean as possible. So let me just show you real fast. So now that hole down in there has been fully vacated where the old harness would go. And you see that hole back there, that's where I'm gonna feed that through with the grommet. And I just set it up here for the day, and plus so it would be out of my way. It's the Rywire harness. So go ahead and show you guys this compared to the other harness that came out of the car, and to show you how clean this is. So laid out, that's the Rywire harness there, and there's the firewall grommet. Here is the old harness. You can see all of this stuff, man. Let me try to straighten it out a little bit more so you guys can really see it. As a comparison, so that's me up off of the ground. It is a little bit longer, and I know why, because it's for the tucking the car. But pretty much, as you can see, that is the harness Rywire compared to the factory harness. Like I said, and you got all this mumbo jumbo here, man. Like all up here was underneath the engine bay. But what you guys seen in the previous video was this here, this whole spider web of stuff. And then this went into the car there. So the Rywire cleans all of that up, and it's just going to make it so much more streamlined. So I'm working on that. Something else I want to show you guys, I know I talked about yesterday, that's important as well. But the other thing I've been working on, let me see, you can see it kind of here. This is the factory positive battery cable, and it's all mixed in the rest of this stuff. And at one point, I took it and got it extended at this place called Best Battery here in the DMV. And it was a quick job. The guy did it, charged me like $10. Wasn't much. But I never was really happy with how it is. And I started today, I started to cut it out of the loom so I could reuse it. But I decided, and the other thing is, I'll show you, this was so loose from 30 years, the terminal end, that it couldn't tighten up anymore on my battery post, really. So I had to get a shim and put in there. But now I have that set up, and it's not tight yet. So I was going to pull that tight, and this isn't going to move at all anymore. And it's 72 inches in length, so it's definitely longer. So I could run it straight through like I had it before. But what I'm going to try to do this time is tuck it down and around into the shock tower, around the fire fender, how I got the rest of the tuck harness for like the headlight and all. But if I don't have enough room to do that, I'm going to look somewhere else in here to see how I could just drop it and snake it around. I might wind up just going right back through that other hole that was there before with the Rywire harness this time. So that's another option. Another thing that I like about this cable that I bought, see, this has got this on there. So what I might as well show you that while it's on my mind. What I was going to do was cut this end off and then just use that as the splice, because what I'm showing you guys is actually the starter wire. Here's the big lug that goes on the actual starter nut. And then this one would go the way Rywire has it set, that this will go into your fuse block. And it's just straight battery. But I'm gonna go straight off of my my battery terminal there. So I'm gonna wind up, I know I shouldn't do it because it's such a nice cable, but I'm gonna wind up cutting this and just splicing right into that. It's gonna be actually a shorter run. The one thing that took me a little time to do was I actually had to modify my and I thank God I had a spare fuse block to try this on, just in case if it did work or didn't. But anyways, I was working on cleaning all of this up, and it's actually like ribbed. Let's see. All right, so you guys can see the ribs there, and then there's pretty much no ribs there anymore, and the battery's going to sit, the cable's going to sit right in there. And that was my biggest thing, because I actually got stepped up in gauge as well. The wire gauge, and if people don't know, a gauge is the size of your wire. It looks like it's like an 8 gauge, and I done stepped all the way up to a nice fat 4 gauge. So that's going to be better for the car too. So that's something that always was well. And then I wasn't happy with it being spliced and cut up like that. So I was never sure if you know, if this thing would ever come loose and cause me issues down the road. Like right here, you can see this is the part of the splice that the man cut it and put the new length wire in, and then he did the same thing down on this end for me as well. So, and you can see the gauge wire there, right? Look at that compared to what's going in the car now. It's a nice big fat cable. So the other thing I did like, and I'm gonna run to the store to do it just because, and they actually make covers, so I'll buy the covers for this too. But anyways, at the store, well, what I had was this red heat shrink to signify positive, and then this one here doesn't have anything on it. But what I'm probably going to wind up doing is taking that off and getting some more, well, not getting more, but using black heat shrink, because that's all that is, and just heat shrinking a black band around it like I did there to identify positive and negative. So, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but this is the one thing that's bugging me right now with this setup. So I'm going to finish installing the Rywire harness. Then I'm going to run up to the store and get more red heat shrink. And then once I make my connection, my crimp, then I'm going to heat shrink that red. So everything is marked or band with a red color to signify positive, at least. Let me get this Rywire harness up. I don't want to damage it. That would be a sad day for me. I'll just lay that there for right now. Other important thing I want to show you real fast on this intro is the connections for inside the car. I know I talked yesterday, and it was kind of out of ignorance that I was talking, but now I figured it out where those other plugs goes. Actually got one connected now, right? But this isn't the O2. This is some type of feed off of the main body harness that's grounded in a positive. And when you're doing this on your EF or your DA, you'll see this plug as well and quickly identify what it is. Like I said, again, in my era, I thought this might have been an O2 sensor, but it's not. It's a main body feed off of your fuse block going into the car. And the same thing goes for that other plug that I was showing you yesterday that kind of looked like this guy, but was on the other end of that body harness, sub harness that Rywire does supply. That's also another body connection that's down in here. I already got it kind of like mocked up. You can kind of see it back over there right now. I got it connected to the body. I was just testing it out yesterday. So that's where those two plugs go. So all in all, man, it's fairly a straightforward job. The other thing that you have on this Rywire harness and its instructions that you got to go on a Rywire and pull down. They give you all these flying leads because for different functions if you want to add it to the car or not. But one of them is, or I want to say one or two. I know one of them is very important, and it's a green wire that I got to look at the original body plug of the car, which is here still for your ECU harness. I got to find where that is on those pins, A, B, or C. Again, that is the fuel pump signal, and you need to plug that or tap into that into the new supplied Rywire harness. He has full instructions on his website. I'll put a link to all of that stuff in the bottom of this video so you have it. But let me go ahead and get cracking on this thing, and then I'll come back. And like I said, what I'll do is just set up the tripod and just film a little bit of me, starting to work this harness in. And then I'll cut it and then just get busy on it. And then I'll come back and you guys can kind of see the finished product. And then I'll just keep plugging away at it. So hold tight. All right, guys, here it goes. Go ahead and feed these wires through. One at a time, as many as I can get through this hole. All right, guys, welcome back. This video is now 2 weeks in the future from the last time I recorded, and it's a good reason for it. We're going to jump right in here and get to talking about it. And some may know, some don't. I was not able to make Honda Day because of the issue that I ran into with the DA Integra. I was a little bummed about it, but at this point, it is what it is. I'd rather have everything squared away the way it needs to be to start driving it, and then eventually so I can sell a car and it'll be reliable. And it like I've said numerous times in this video and other videos, just so the person will be getting a good example of the car, and won't have too much to worry about. But jumping right in, let me show you what I've been up to. I'm going to walk around the car so you can see. So, as you can see, I got the whole front end. Well, not the whole front end, but the bumper and lights and all that stuff removed. You can see some wires right here. I know you're probably wondering what the heck's going on. There's the bumper just chilling on the Skyline. I love how I just use my cars as storage for other pieces from other cars. There's a light. There's a light. But anyways, I wanted you guys to see the install that had been done of the Rywire harness and how much cleaner it has now made the bay. There's the Rywire harness there, of course. And that's it. And if you remember, when we first started out with this video in particular, it was a big rat's nest of stuff right there in that area. Well, that's all been removed, cleaned up. This here, what you're seeing, is my solution. That right there is my solution to the positive battery cable. I didn't want to hide it anymore. I figured that was clean enough the way it's like tucking and going in. Ease of access, ease of maintenance. If there's ever an issue, whatever, you can get right to it right there. You got to rip a bunch of stuff apart. That's the band. I finally cleaned up. Don't worry about that. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But I cleaned up that ground wire that kind of went over here and just was a eyesore for me, and that was the negative battery cable, which is here now, of course. So it's going to be clean, and I put a black band around that. I cleaned that all up. This here is the reverse. So I wired everything up and I went to test it, and I'm not getting reverse lights, but I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Talk about it a little bit more. But once that's done, I will go ahead and wire loom that up. I got the wire loom somewhere that I took it off. It's not that piece. That's something else I'm working on. But yeah, that's going to be all cleaned up. That's the Deutsch connector right there. So that's all clean. I wind up, I don't think you guys seen it, but yeah, I wind up changing out the intake because actually the intake that I have, I want to keep with me forever, or forever as much as possible, which is right there just chilling. That's the intake that came off the car. That was the first part that I ever bought for this car 20 years ago, so that's staying with me. So I just want to do something clean. So I just went ahead, bought a new one off of eBay for like $35, painted it flat black with the professional grade paint, Rust-Oleum paint. I'm gonna jump from the front of the car real quick and use another shot. You guys can see, man, that Rywire harness really did the trick. Really cleaned it up, really nice. But I'm gonna jump back to the front in a minute. Grab this. I want to show you guys what's happened on the inside. It may look like not much, but I've done a fair bit of work in here. So right now, this is the rat's nest of wires inside the car. I'm taking my time with it, so I'm working on the front end, and I'm gonna come back in and clean up. So this is the Rywire harness pieces here that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So that's all good to go. This here is a 4-pin Stooch connector. And I know you're wondering, what is this? What's going on? In the instructions for the Rywire, it details, like, I think it's like six or seven wires that you can connect if you want. But 3 of those 6 or 7 wires is actually mandatory. And the main important one is the green wire coming off of your DA chassis. What that is the fuel pump signal wire. Without that, your car won't start. It'll crank, 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 but it won't start. Then the other ones are going to be for like your electronic load detection, vehicle speed, check engine light. I'm just going off the top of my head and some other ones. But when you get the Rywire harness, you can just easily go on their website and you download a PDF, and it tells you what wires you need to connect. And what you have to do is, this is the old pins for your ECU. You got to find those pinouts on these plugs, cut it, and then they want you to hard splice it. But me, I've gotten fancy over the years, and once I've discovered these connectors that look so much like a factory connector to me, I like the overall finish of the Stooch connectors. That's what I do now. If it's something where I feel like it's not like permanent, I like using the Stooch connectors. And eventually what I'll do is I gotta go back through the rest of this and just see if I got any other stragglers. Like this guy here was actually like the VTech wire or something, I don't know. But all right, I'm gonna clean that up. That's gonna be gone. And then this whole mess of stuff, all of this is going to be gone. I'm gonna go through these wires and completely remove this, because never again will I ever need it. And I'm quite sure the next owner is going to stay OBD1. I hope they would. With the Rywire, which is these ECU pins here. Now, something that I did off of camera at the time was I ran ahead and fired the car up. The car ran. It idled like it's never idled before. I swear, man. Even with the Honda data that I had, the ECU and all, the car, like, it just idled really good. So that just let me know, it put me at peace of mind that, yeah, the wiring harness was getting kind of ratty, and it was just time for upgrade and change and replace those 30-year-old wires. So that's all done. Problem. So when the car was running, and I'll flip, you guys can see real quick. This here is my onboard AFR gauge. We'll get to this stuff later, but it's not what you think anymore. But this is, and I highly recommend anybody who has a car. I know ECUs and standalones and stuff have come such a long way, but if you can, wire separately from your ECU a AFR gauge and wideband O2 sensor, so you can actually monitor the state of the tune, because that AFR will tell you a lot of what's going on with your car. I'm glad I had that and I had it hooked up and it was working, functioning, because I was able to sit there and watch once the ECU started trying to learn. And this is with the old programming, of course, the old S100 programming, that it started leaning out. So when the car first started, it was running, it was bouncing between 14, 8 to 1 to 15, 2 to 1, which it was the same tune. Pretty much it would bounce it around that area at idle, right? So once the car started learning itself or whatever, I watched the AFR start climbing above that 15 to 1 and went all the way to almost 18 to 1. That is not good. I immediately shut the car off. I never put load on the car. I just had it running. And I had an check engine light. But again, the car cranked, it ran, so that's good. I know the wire harness, injectors, everything is fine, the stuff that I bought. And I knew something, I knew it was going to be off, because the ECU was originally mapped for those OBDO saturated instead of peak hold injectors. So we knew going in that, that was going to have to get changed. Problem came when I went to the man that originally had tuned the car, my man John, at Absolute Performance. I got some bad news from him. Somehow he got popped by the EPA like 2.5, 3 years ago, And he pretty much just stopped doing dyno tuning and doing Honda altogether. That left me with a predicament because I initially was just like, like we had talked some years ago, like 6 years ago, like once I got where I wanted, I would just take the ECU up there. He already had my files, he had the data, my map, everything saved. He would just change over the injectors to OBD1 and clean up the tune if he really had to, and then put it on an S300 because that's what I was going to do. I was going to switch to S300. Never did that, of course. Things happen, life happens. I bought the Skyline in the meantime, and this got put on the back burner. So long story short, that left me with a predicament of trying to scramble and figure out what I was going to do for tuning. Reached out to a couple of buddies. They weren't really able to help me. So I wound up going to a shop in the Glen Burnie, Millersville area here in Maryland. And pretty much nobody does in-house chipping or upgrading of Honda S100 to 300, S300. So I pretty much had to get the ECU sent out to California to Honda. I'm happy about that because I know, for one, it's not going to be a fake or bogus Honda. It's really real Honda. They also are going to replace or are replacing the capacitors and whatever else needs to get done with for an extra fee. All total, right now, I'm sitting at $800 for that setup. It's cool, no problem, because again, at the end of the day, I know it's going to be legit, right? So that's where we sit right now. Meantime, I just started going through the car and just like cleaning little stuff up that I could because I'm in still. Inside, I finally put the C-pillar trims on and just put everything back together interior wise on the car. This dash area is going to be getting ripped apart because I got something coming that I'm going to do. We'll talk about that later. It's just going to make it a nicer, more appealing thing. So today what I'm actually working on, so you can get down here, back out. So this is my fan. It's a hidden setup or whatever. And these are the wires that I had going to it, kind of, sort of. So something had happened, man, I don't know, probably like 10 years ago, where the fan on the car stopped working by itself. So I wired up a switch. I wound up putting a switch in the car, and I would just turn the fan on that way. And just now, to clean this thing up and make it really nice for somebody, I said I want to figure out what I got to do to get the fan to work like it's supposed to, off of the temperature switch, and you don't have to sit there and babysit the car while it's running or whatever. You can just, it'll operate like it was intended. So the second part of this is what I'm going to wind up getting into, because I don't want to make this video too long. So this is just going to close out the video for the Rywire Tucked harness on the DA. And then, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into another video, start another video for this fan. So, all right, guys, you're getting this one now. Appreciate your support, your love. To all the people that made it to Honda Day, I hope you guys had a blast. Some of the stuff I've seen, event coverage, looked like it was awesome, like the biggest turnout ever. The weather that day was freaking amazing. But anyways, look, I love you guys. Thank you for your support. Stay tuned for a new video coming out. Peace.